The far north of Minnesota keeps its quiet like a secret. Out here the pines stand black against a pale sky, the water lies flat as poured glass, and the birches burn gold along a shoreline that has watched centuries pass without hurry. This is a place where the last farms give way to true wilderness, where the road ends and the Canoe Country begins. Welcome to Bear Head Lake State Park. We are in the northeastern corner of Minnesota in St. Louis County, a short distance south of the town of Ely. This is the threshold of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness, a vast maze of lakes and portages that reaches all the way to the Canadian border. To the west lies the old iron country of the Vermilion Range. Everything here is shaped by water, rock, and the long northern forest. It is early October, and the season is turning fast. Come along as this route follows the shoreline through a forest lit up in yellow and amber, the last warm color before the long white winter arrives. The air is cool and clean, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and cold water. Bear Head Lake sits at the heart of it all, calm and unbothered, holding the reflection of the trees like a second sky. The forest around us is the great boreal woodland of the north, a blend of tall red and white pine, dark spruce, papery birch, and trembling aspen. This is where the broadleaf forests of the south finally surrender to the evergreen belt that circles the top of the world. The trail leads beneath a canopy that has grown back patiently over a century of change. Underfoot the ground is soft with needles and moss, and every rise opens onto another glimpse of water. Long before any park boundary was drawn, this was and remains the homeland of the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe people of the northern lakes. For generations, these waters were traveled by birch bark canoe, and the surrounding woods provided wild rice, fish, game, and the materials of daily life. The lakes were not obstacles but highways, linking one season and one camp to the next. That deep relationship to this land runs far older than anything written down. Bear Head Lake sits right on the edge of the Boundary Waters, one of the most famous wilderness canoe regions in all of North America. Beyond the park lie more than 1,000 interconnected lakes and streams, threaded together by portage paths worn smooth over uncountable years. Here the route hugs a quieter water, but the same wild character is everywhere. This is a landscape best measured not in miles of road, but in strokes of a paddle. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, the tall pine of these woods drew the logging companies north. The great white and red pines, some of them centuries old, were felled through the winter and hauled across frozen lakes and rivers to the mills. It was hard, cold, dangerous work, and it reshaped the forest completely. Much of what surrounds us now is a second forest, grown up in the long quiet after the axes fell silent. To move so much timber, the loggers built more than camps. A small settlement once stood in this area, served by a spur of railway that pushed into the woods to carry logs and supplies. For a brief time there was smoke and noise and the clatter of iron wheels where now there is only birdsong. When the biggest pines were gone, the people moved on, and the forest began the slow work of taking the clearings back. The rails were lifted, and the woods closed over the past. Just to the west, another kind of fortune was being pulled from the ground. The Vermilion Iron Range, centered near the town of Tower and Soudan, opened some of Minnesota's earliest iron mines in the 1880s. Deep shafts followed the ore far below the surface, and the iron of the North Woods helped build the growing cities of the nation. The mining country and the logging country grew side by side, two frontiers sharing the same rugged land. After the timber boom faded, the North Woods were left cut over and scarred, and for a while their future was uncertain. But this is resilient country. Slowly, the aspen and birch rose first, sheltering young pine and spruce beneath them, and the forest knit itself back together. The route now passes stands of pine tall enough to whisper in the wind once more. What looks ancient and untouched is in truth a landscape recovered, a quiet triumph of time. Recognizing the beauty that had returned, Minnesota set this ground aside, and Bear Head Lake became a state park in the year 1961. What had once been logged and abandoned was now protected for everyone who might come to find quiet among the pines. Campsites, trails, and a swimming beach were laid out with a light hand, leaving the wildness mostly intact. It was a promise that this corner of the North would stay wild for the generations still to come. These woods and waters are full of life, even in the hush of autumn. The common loon rides the open lake with its haunting call, the true voice of the northern wilderness. Black bears move through the berry patches, beavers build and mend their lodges along the quiet inlets, and moose sign appears in the wetter ground. Overhead, an eagle may wheel above the tree line. Every part of this place belongs first to the animals that live here year-round. At the center of it all lies the lake itself, deep and clear and cold. On a windless autumn morning, the surface goes perfectly still, doubling the gold of the shoreline and the blue of the sky in a flawless mirror. The route follows the water's edge, where fallen leaves drift like small boats, and the only sound is the lap of tiny waves on stone. To sit here and simply look is reason enough to have come this far. For all its quiet, Bear Head Lake once found itself in a national spotlight. In 2010, it was voted America's favorite park in a nationwide contest, chosen over grander and more famous places by the sheer devotion of the people who love it. The honor came with a generous grant that helped care for the park for years afterward. It was proof that a small northern lake can hold a very large place in people's hearts. Now, in these last bright days, the whole forest seems to glow from within. The birch and aspen turn every shade of yellow and gold, glowing against the deep evergreen of the pines and the dark mirror of the water. Here the light comes low and warm, filtering through leaves that will soon let go. It is the North Woods at its most generous, a final blaze of color before the snow settles in and the lakes turn to ice. As the morning warms and the mist rises off the water, Bear Head Lake keeps its ancient calm, a wild heart on the edge of the great Canoe Country. From old Homeland to logging camp to beloved park, this quiet lake has held its beauty through every season of change. We are grateful to have shared a little of its peace. Thank you for watching. Follow for more interesting people, places, and things we cover on the channel.